Hey y'all, I'm Kendra.
I'm Anthony.
And this is A House to Homemade. In this video, we're going to share with you one of our first DIY projects since moving in, where we decided to epoxy our garage floors. It's a 3-car garage, roughly 670 square feet. Here is what it looked like before we started, with some normal wear and tear like grease stains and cracks in the concrete. Our ultimate goal is to turn this into a functional workspace for storing and creating, so we decided to start with the floors. We'll show you a step-by-step process that we took, some of the products we used, and also some things we would have done differently. One of the most important steps before applying epoxy is preparing the concrete properly. Our floors were pretty dirty, so we decided to use an air compressor to blow out the dirt and debris, making sure to focus on the cracks. Next, we sprayed a powerful degreaser called Purple Power onto the concrete before pressure washing the entire surface. Again, we made sure to focus on the cracks so that there was no dirt and debris left over, and also extra attention to the grease stains because a clean, smooth surface is crucial for proper epoxy application. Before moving on to the next step, we had to let the concrete dry for about 24 hours. On day 2 of preparing the concrete, we rented a floor polisher and a diamond blade from Home Depot to buff and smooth the surface. It was about $50 for a 24-hour rental. As you can imagine, this left quite a bit of dust, so we made sure to blow it all out and remove the excess. We actually ended up lightly pressure washing one more time to make sure that it was all completely removed. After waiting another 24 hours for the concrete to dry, we got started on some of the final steps of preparing the concrete before applying the epoxy. We notched all the cracks at a V angle using a grinder and a diamond blade to improve the adhesive surface. We then used Quickcrete's concrete crack sealant to fill all the cracks and then eventually sand that smooth so it was flush with the rest of the concrete surface. The sealant dried quickly and we are just a little too impatient, so we actually applied the epoxy that same evening. Here we are getting ready to open and start mixing the cans of epoxy. We ordered the resin in black from Colored Epoxies off Amazon. Considering the total square footage of our garage and the 2-to-1 ratio of resin to cure, we ended up ordering 6 gallons in total, 4 gallons of resin and 2 gallons of hardener. We also added a metallic additive from Simron Coatings in a pearl color to the mixture. We then spent a good 5 to 10 minutes mixing everything at a slow speed in order to reduce air bubbles. And finally, we started applying the epoxy. Using a paint roller and a nap on an extendable paint pole, we started working our way outwards towards the door. On our first pass, we made sure to work the epoxy in a single direction, being mindful of not spreading the epoxy too thin by doing too many strokes. We worked in sections, and when we reached a stopping point, we would eventually cross-roll the epoxy in the other direction to maximize its spread. Obviously, we weren't too concerned about the baseboards. We actually ended up painting them black anyways, but if you don't want your baseboards black, you might consider taping or removing them. We continued working in an outward direction towards the door while keeping an eye out for large pieces of debris like bugs or concrete or dirt. Anthony is spraying denatured alcohol here to prevent air bubbles. At this point, we were about halfway through the garage and really concentrating on those cracks that we sealed and sanded. We started to get a really good handle of the flow and brush strokes. We're actually wearing spiked garden shoes for the moments in which we needed to walk over the epoxy we had already applied. But after a few hours, we eventually finished the entire surface, and down here in Texas it was quite warm, so the next day it dried pretty quickly, so we started applying the top coat. We had decided to apply only one thick coat of the resin as well as one coat of the top coat, but in hindsight we probably would have added a second top coat. In the same pour and spread fashion as the resin, we made sure to hit every square inch of the surface with the top coat. As a reminder, here is what our garage looked like a few days before our DIY project. And here is the finished product. We love the way it turned out and the sleek, shiny look of the black floors. As I get a little closer, you can see some of the metallic as well, and those cracks covered fairly well. Here's an example of what's called fish eyeing, which happens when grease and other stains show through the resin. In hindsight, when we were preparing the concrete, we would give more special attention to those with degreaser and pressure washer. All in all, it was a fairly budget and DIY friendly project, with most of the work going into preparing the concrete. Please let us know what you think of the final product in the comments below, and also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate you watching this video.